Greetings and welcome to Jefficho Films. Continuing along with our sci-fi horror, we hit director Guillermo del Toro's one of his first English-speaking directed movies. Also starring F. Murray Abraham, an Academy Award nominee from Star Trek Insurrection, Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead, and Miro Sorvino, an Academy Award winner. Who doesn't like fighting giant cockroaches? So let's review Mimic. This movie starts out in snowy New York and talk of Strickland's disease. Then we jump to a children's hospital where Dr. Susan Tyler is walking through there. She sees a bunch of kids that can't breathe, and they need help. Then we jump to the sewers in hazmat suits, where there's a ton of cockroaches. She opens a device and releases some cockroaches that secrete a white foamy substance. A lot of fades already, the movie's just starting, and then all the cockroaches are dead. At a press conference, the CDC is giving Susan Tyler the credit for stopping the spread of Strickland's disease and its carriers. She talks about how she uses genetics to create a new breed of cockroaches, the Judas breed, that kills them. She's chilling with her husband, Dr. Peter Mann, and she's concerned about the impact of what they did, but then they implied fool around.
Impact is there's gonna be a lot of kids running around next year because of you. A lot of kids.
Hey!
Maybe we get lucky. Maybe a couple will be ours someday.
3 years later, it's raining in New York, and a guy's running on the rooftop. He's wearing a cross and he's being chased by something. And then we get this kid who's identifying the guy that's chasing him with shoes. And this kid is kind of a weak point of this movie.
Funny shoes. Funny shoes.
Lunch at work the next day with hubby, and he's really pushing that they want to have children, and they have been trying. Thanos himself is in this. Josh Brolin plays Josh, and he's Dr. Mann's assistant. And they go into this chapel, the crime scene, where they find out it's actually a front for the triads, and 36 people live in there with one toilet.
So what do you say, boss?
Quarantine. Quarantine the cops that found it. Quarantine anybody who touched anything.
An Asian woman says the Dark Angel is coming to get her, and Mann is worried that this place connects to the subway tunnels and would spread. Dr. Mann gets crap on the radio for quarantining 2 cops, and he explains his reasons, and he literally thinks they're valid. He held a woman's hand in that church. He should be quarantined too. An old man walks Julian, the weird kid, through the area, and Josh Brolin finds buttons inside a poop that was stuck to the ceiling. Remy and Susan meet some kids and they sell them some bugs. I thought the kids were in it for the money, but they stick around for the education. She explains something that we're going to learn later in the movie.
Now say you're him. He's what we call a soldier. Now there is no way that you would ever quit fighting, no matter how badly injured you were. It would be a battle to the death.
Susan is showing Remy that she has a female sound that's recorded that attracts bugs, and then she checks out her purchase. Now she's carefully opening the box, and she pulls out a large cockroach and proves to be stupid. It secretes the Judas fluid, and then a man-sized thing sneaks in quietly, kills a light, steals the cockroach, and then he's on the ceiling, and he flies off. Then the man-shaped thing's in the alleyway where the crime scene happened, and a little kid sitting up in his window, and we find out that his dad is a shoemaker. Now his shoe identifying makes sense, but it's still super annoying, and he keeps calling him funny shoes. His dad says this really great line.
Now you have Jesus on the cross, but that is not a holy place.
Back at home, Peter and Susan argue over her find of the Judas bug. They were supposed to die out. Then they go to the subway because there's so many abandoned subway areas. And they're looking out in this one place and he loses his flashlight. Cop comes by and Peter and the cop argue as she goes and meets Chewie. The stupid bug-dealing kids go into the subway and they find a cocoon. Then they cut into it and we start hearing noises. And it's a creature that comes by and it kills them. I mean, props for killing kids in your movie. Dr. Gates and Susan talk, and he's her mentor, and he mentions that the Judas bugs may have died in a lab, but the world is a much bigger lab. Chewie goes into the alley, and then he finds a way into the abandoned church. Didn't you listen to your dad's warnings? And he starts hearing the clicking noise, so he starts playing his spoons, and he's surrounded, but he just keeps playing his spoons. They're probably gonna eat him, but then we jump to a sewage lab. Remy calls Susan, but she's busy, admiring herself in the mirror. So are we. She tells her about the kid, but she's checking out their pregnancy test. Nope, still not pregnant. Oh, snap, wait, no, that thing's just delayed. Next we get a list of things they find in sewage plants by a young Norman Reedus.
Beer bottles, body parts, cocaine-filled condoms, little baby alligators. So,
It's a dog-sized cockroach. Peter finds a pregnancy test and sees the results. The shoemaker finds his kid missing, and Peter and Josh and Leonard head into the sewers. Dad doesn't go looking for him, realizes he's in the church. Mr. Funnyshoon finds a way into the sewers. It's a popular place. Leonard the cop tells Josh and Pete how people go missing down there. Susan and Peter talk on their dated cell phones, but they can't hear each other, and then Remy brings Dr. Gates the life-size cockroach. He says that this couldn't have developed outside of a colony.
This thing is not just some random mutation. It's a highly evolved soldier caste. Formidable killer.
Susan's hanging out in the subway alone, and she realizes cockroaches can make human faces. And then she's taken by one. Like, really, bring a weapon, lady.
Sir, the time?
A lot of these abandoned subway structures are very unstable, and Peter and Leonard fall, and they decide to send Josh off for help, but he's pretty sure he's gonna get lost. I'd added and killed too. Susan wakes up and she finds a full-size weapon in a dead man's hands, and she's scared, and she cries when she walks. But really, they should be worshipping you. You created them. This is kind of bullshit. Well, she finds some more dead people, and then she stabs a cockroach with it, and then she falls to another level. Josh finds some weird larva eggs, and then they find him. Bet you wish you had that Infinity Gauntlet now. The shoemaker locates Susan, and then they find Peter and Leonard to help get her out. And then they're chased by one, and they actually get it trapped in an abandoned subway car and shoot it. It rips itself in half and still slices Leonard's leg good before he shoots it. That's gonna need some serious stitches. Susan decides to do an on-the-spot autopsy, and she sees lungs. Insects don't have lungs. Peter asks how it could have evolved so fast. Leonard won't shut up. Now I'm sure his gunshot was loud enough, but dude, just be quiet. Susan says the smell of blood is gonna make them react, so she reaches into the dead creature and pulls out stuff, and they all rub it all over themselves to mask their scent. The subway card has a map, and it's a CR-17 from Coney Island, and Leonard thinks it still works. They just have to get the power going. Peter and Manny are gonna go out. They're gonna have to flip some switches and rewire some stuff. Peter doesn't tell her about the pregnancy test, and then the place gets rocked again, and Leonard's leg is bleeding, and she puts more of that fluid on Peter's face.
Don't touch it. Try not to sweat.
Manny hears some clicky noises and thinks it's Chewie, so he actually crawls into this small space. This should turn out well. He actually does find his kid, but his kid makes some clicky sounds, and he's betrayed his dad because he's friends with the male.
Come here.
Friends.
Peter's playing with wires when one gets very close, and its arms sound like a sword being unsheathed, but it passes by. Susan points out that they could spread and put up colonies everywhere. Susan finds Chewie, and Peter manages to get the power going by using his glasses, and Leonard gets the thing moving, but then it stops again, and his leg is really bad. Peter gets back there, and he tells Peter to go, and his leg just keeps bleeding. So Peter goes off and finds Susan and Chewie, and Leonard sees the cockroaches are closing in, so he starts walking and singing to draw them away. But he doesn't fare too well. Chivalry isn't dead, and Peter locks Susan and Chewie in a lift that he found to get them out of there safely. She says that he has to stop them there, and then the little kid decides that he's gonna exit. Fucking kid. Peter steps into a bad area, like seriously, middle of the nest. There's like thousands of them there, and he notices the steam's coming up and all these pipes, so he starts hammering on the pipes to get the gas going. This is one of those sacrifice yourself to save the world kind of things. Explosions everywhere, and Susan's still concerned about Chewie, but there he is on the tracks, and so's the male creature. She cuts her hand to draw the creature away from Chewie, and conveniently a train starts coming down, and she manages to jump off the tracks just in time as it hits the creature, even though we've demonstrated they have superior speed and strength. She goes and she collects Chewie, and firefighters are putting fires out and cops are everywhere, and Dr. Gates shows up and says nothing could have survived, and then Chewie wanders off and listens to people walking up the subway. Somehow Peter walks up, not even badly burnt. I suppose he could have jumped into the water and avoided the explosion, but insert eye roll here. He tells her that they're going to have a baby. Maybe tell her that you saw the pregnancy test and that it was positive, otherwise you just sound hopeful. Budget of $30 million, but it only made $25.5. It also spawned 2 sequels, but they were straight to DVD. While the execution might not have been perfect in this, and the little child character was pretty annoying, the idea of these creatures evolving and becoming this different kind of threat that we've never seen before in cinema was kind of cool, and Del Toro has a really good eye for this kind of thing, the creepy and the crawly, and he did a really good job with it. I would say Mimic is worth watching, but I wouldn't say that about the sequels. But Meryl Sorvino's pretty solid in it, and it's a fun, enjoyable flick. Well, as always, thanks for watching.